On our show today, we have Osman Mohammed, who is the chairman of the Maurice Commission. Osman, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Yusuf.
Osman, we've been hearing about this concept or model called Maurice. Why is it so important, and can you tell us more about this concept of Maurice?
Yes, indeed. In 2008, when Maurice was launched by the Prime Minister, it was indeed a concept and a vision that was mooted by the Prime Minister. But we have since transformed MID, in short, into a societal project that seeks to transform the environmental, economic and social landscape of Mauritius. We've done that through a participative democratic process, and today Maurice is about sustainable development, it's about inclusive growth, and it seeks to preserve the country in the actual state that it is, or to make it a better place to live. So we want to make Mauritius a model of sustainable development in the context of small island developing state.
Because very often when we hear the concept of sustainable living, we always tend to focus on one aspect, which is just the environment. Like what you're saying today is much more than that.
It's much more than that. Prime Minister cast it on the mid-5E. Therefore, we have energy, environment, employment, education and equity. Through the participative democratic process, we have had 600 or so recommendations from civil society, and through best international practice from an international consultant, we've transformed these 600 recommendations into an MID policy, strategy and action plan that has been approved by Cabinet on the 14th of June 2013 into 130 actions and policies to be implemented within the next 3 years or so. Now, these actions are to be implemented through 4 main programs, and that is, of course, we have energy, because it is a main requirement that we try and diversify our energy mix, because energy is we have to address the energy triology, which is energy security, environmental impact mitigation, and also the equity side of it. Everybody needs to have access, it has to be affordable. But then we have energy, we have cleaner, greener, pollution-free Mauritius, because we cannot possibly have a sustainable island when it is polluted and dirty. Then we have 2 main economic programs through which we will deliver it, and that is the green economy and ocean economy.
And the green economy, as you mentioned, it's about social inclusion, where everyone participates, and it's about a democratic process. And so far, it's been some time that the Maurice concept has been launched. What has been the successes and the challenges so far?
Well, success is a big term. Sustainable development is an ongoing process. What I can tell you is since ever it has been launched and up until the action plan was finalized and approved, which is costed at some 6.26 billion rupees, 5 billion is devoted to the energy sector, and financially supported by the government, of course. There has been several initiatives that have been launched. As of 2013, 14th of June, we have about 207 projects and initiatives that has been undertaken by several departments of the government, and they are ongoing. And there has been several decisions from the government, be it in the agricultural sector, be it in the energy sector, be it in the education sector. Some 40 of them that has been taken by government so far in the context of MID. You can have more information about these projects and these cabinet decisions. I've listed about 15 of them on our website, which is www.mid.mu. So that is one aspect of it. But then what we've noticed as well is, because we went through a democratic participative process, there has been a lot of people now and organizations that have somehow rallied behind the MID concept. And whenever there is something that is not quite SD compliant, so to speak, you can see articles in the newspapers. Likewise, there are several organizations that are organizing events and campaigns that are in line with MID. For example, there is a forthcoming island-wide cleanup campaign that is being done by the civil society and private sector, where government is just a facilitator, but they are doing it because they feel they have, you know, in the spirit of MID, the duty or the will to keep our country a good place to live in, or a better place going forward.
Usman, you've talked about something which is very, very important, preserving society for future generation. I think we should start with our youth.
Definitely, Yusuf. And we've started with secondary school first. You know, this year we've launched the concept of MID Club in school. We started at Plaine Magnan with the school France Boyer de la Giraudet, and it fared very well, you know. Trying to get some initial concepts on sustainable development, big waste collection and recycling, the preservation of water, the preservation of energy, growing vegetables using natural resources like compost and these kind of things. And it fared quite well. And we are now replicating this in all other secondary schools. Some 50 of them has already been set up. And it not only teaches the children, but it also gets them outside the school to disseminate and partake whatever they are learning at home first, and then eventually to people living in the vicinity, so that the message percolates throughout society. So that's something we have already started. And we are also, as far as sustainable development, conducting courses at the level of the University of Mauritius, modules being taught at first degree, and you know, we have masters in sustainable development being taught right now in our 2 universities. Now, our aim, we've set targets for the 5 E's in the MID action plan. And if you allow me, I'll quote the one for education, and it is to make all the 100% MID literacy, to have 100% MID literacy in Mauritius by 2020. And I was talking to some colleagues at the Ministry of Education. They tell me it is possible to have it even before. So we are very hopeful there.
And MID is not just about government, it's about the civil society, which you mentioned. And it's about the long-term vision and the long-term challenges that we'll be facing. What are the future plans that's going to make this concept even more successful?
Well, immediately it is the implementation of the action plan as approved by government. Already we have started. We have called the ministries. We have, you know, ministries are very important because they do major projects in the country, and all these have to be MID compliant. There is a MID compliant aspect in the MID action plan, and indices are now being developed for that. And also ministries, through their policies, they affect the whole of the country, be it whatever the private sector does or civil society does. So through policies and projects, the implementation of the MID action plan is an immediate priority. We've started meeting with the ministries, and all, let me tell you, Yusuf, all ministries are concerned. Even the culture ministry, which is actually preparing its culture policy, for example, has to take the sustainability aspect into consideration. And these are things that are being done. We are meeting them bilaterally, so that as from next year, in their program-based budgeting for 2014-2016, the provisions of the MID action plan is taken care of.
And we also know that most countries, when they go through this phase of development, they tend to look for employment, they tend to look for faster growth, and environment tends to get destroyed. And we've seen industrialization of many countries in the past, when environment has been neglected at some point. Having, from your perspective, what are the lessons can we learn if you were to advise our friends on the African continent or in the region per se?
I think it's very important that we look long term. And well, not everybody will agree. Some people, or some department will try to cast a short-term view, but at the end of the day, future generation matters, and we are here to preserve the country for them. What I think makes a difference in MID is the process that we have followed, the participative democratic one, and that tends to, as far as possible, get people to be behind. And you need not only government agencies at the end of the day, but everybody in order to make Mauritius a sustainable island. So I believe the process is important, and it was based on a French model, which is the Grenelle de l'environnement, but modified to suit the Mauritian context. So I believe that is something that maybe can be replicated and adjusted in countries who would want to, embark on sustainable development as a priority.
It's interesting to hear that instead of having these antagonistic views of economy and environment, now the marriage is here and they can work together through the green economy.
Definitely. Not easy, challenging, and MID is not a one-off project. It's a long-term trajectory. So we will perhaps not see the results immediately, but we are setting the foundation for us to follow on a long-term basis, so that it's not a one-off. Like I said, it's a continuous process of development.
And sometimes the results can be tangible, sometimes it can be just intangible.
I won't call it intangible, but will take some time to be visible.
Absolutely. That's fun. It was a pleasure having you on the show, and thank you.
My pleasure.